Welcome to Stella's Meza. On today's episode, I am in the mood for some comfort. So what I'm going to be doing is making some Kenyan comfort food. What do we have on the menu? We have Irio, which is a traditional central Kenyan potato dish. It has potatoes in it, it has peas in it, it has spinach in it, and it has some fresh corn. And then we'll also be cooking with that some beef stew, which you're going to use to eat the Irio with. And then we're also going to be making some bread pudding, and not just any old bread pudding. We're going to be making some tropical bread pudding. And this is a recipe that I came up with on my own. And it has French bread. You can use challah bread if you like, because it soaks well. And it has Amarula. And Amarula is cream liqueur from South Africa, and it is made from the Amarula tree, and it's tasty. You can drink it on its own, but today we're going to cook with it. And then it has some cardamom, it has heavy whipping cream, some coconut milk, just very exquisite. And I'll show you how to do that, but I'll walk you over here because I started on the preparation for the beef stew and also for the Irio. And just to let you know, all the ingredients and the measurements you can find on my blog. The website is www.stellasmeza.blogspot.com. So be sure to go over there to find out the measurements, and I also include pictures, step-by-step pictures of what to do and how everything should look before you start cooking. So if you walk over here, I had some fresh corn, like sweet corn, and then I had peas. Now you can either get corn on the cob, which is what I did. I just had 4 ears of corn, and I went ahead and took the corn off the cob, and that's what we have here. And then that's equivalent to a cup. And then I also have some fresh green peas, and you can shell them. That's how we do it in Kenya, or you can buy them in the frozen section in the grocery store. So what I did is I went ahead and boiled them in just plain old water. I put enough water to cover the top of them, and then I tested the corn because that's the hardest of the two. And once it gave a little, I know it's good and cooked, and I drained out the water. So that's what we have over here. And then over here, I have a pound of stewed beef that's normally you buy it cubed, but I went ahead and made it fine. Like I made the cubes finer. They're normally big chunks, but I cut them into these size pieces. I'll show it to you. And I just went ahead, you see that? That's the size you want. And I went ahead and boiled it. I just put some water, enough to cover it up, and then I did not add any salt or pepper in it. I'm going to do that as I cook. So I boiled it, and then I drained out the broth, and that's what you have over here. Okay? And over here, I had 6 large potatoes that I went ahead and cut. And if you look at it, I put water enough to fill it up so it cooks down. And that's the size you're looking for. So what I did is I went ahead and added some a pinch of pepper. Now you put it enough like to your taste. And I'm going to add some salt. Okay. I drained away some of that water because it was a lot in there. And I'm about to throw some spinach in there. Like around 3 pinches of salt. Remember, it's potatoes, so they soak in a lot of salt. If you don't put enough, your meal's going to be bland. So you want to put around a tablespoon of salt, and I use kosher salt. And then I'm going to add some spinach in here. Now this is about half a bunch or a cup of spinach. I'm just going to put that in there. These cook quick, so that's why I went ahead and cooked the potatoes first, and then drained some of that water off. And I'm going to throw this in and let it cook down slowly. And then what I'll do is once the spinach has cooked down, I'll go ahead and add the corn and the peas, and then we're going to go ahead and steam them a little bit for around 15 minutes. Now remember, when you're cooking your potatoes, like until they're fork tender, make sure they don't crumble. If you cook it and it's too soft, it's going to be mushy. I like my Irio with a little bit of texture, so I wouldn't mash it all the way. I'll leave some little chunks. I like that. And I add butter. Now my best friend of 30 years is from central Kenya, and this is her mother's recipe for Irio, so it's delicious. What I do to make mine creamy and give it a richer taste, I add like a tablespoon of butter towards the end, but we'll let that cook down on medium. Just let the spinach stim down, and then we're going to add this later, and then I'll come back and cook this. But we're going to start with our tropical bread pudding. Now over here I have 3-day-old French bread. Now the reason I want it 3 days old is that you want it nice and hard. Okay, just leave it at room temperature. Don't put it in the refrigerator. Leave it on the counter in its package. You can open one end of its package just to let the air in. That'll help in making it hard. And then I went ahead and cubed it to around this size. Okay, and if for some reason you find that your bread is not hard enough, you can put it on a baking sheet in the oven at 250 degrees and toast it for like 8 minutes. Still, it's hard, but it's not brown. Okay, so you want to hear this sound. You know, like it's hard. You hear that? Okay, and this baking dish, I went ahead and buttered the inside of it just to make sure it does not stick once it's all nice and cooked. All right, so we're going to start. You're going to need 2 mixing bowls, one for the eggs and one to make the custard. The custard is what we're going to pour in over this. So we're going to start with mixing over here. Just, I like to, when I'm making something sweet, I like to add a little bit of salt in there just to balance the flavor. So that's a pinch, about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then over here I have a 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom. So we're going to leave that to the side, okay? So over here what I'm going to do is I will take a can of fruit cocktail. It's tropical fruit cocktail, and I'm just going to pour it in over this. Okay. It's going to be a nice little surprise in there. I drained most of the water out and I left just a little bit to give the bread some of that fruit flavor. And we're going to toss that later. So over here, I am going to break the eggs. Now, I like to break my eggs one at a time, just to make sure that if one's bad, the whole batch does not get spoiled, okay? So we're just going to keep cracking them one at a time. And it gets messy, but just make sure you do not get any shells in there. And if for any reason you get a shell in there, what you do is you just take the shell. It's easier to scoop it out with the shell instead of a spoon, because you'll be in there digging and digging forever. So I'm just going to crack them all in here. And I have here 6 eggs. You can use 5 to 6 eggs depending on how rich over a flavor you want for your custard. Told y'all it's messy. But what's the fun in cooking if you don't make a little bit of mess? What are you going to clean up? Okay. Make sure there's no eggshells in there. Good. All our eggs are good. So I'm going to lightly beat it. Actually, I'm going to rinse my hands. Can't stand that. Okay. Get my hands. And I'm going to take a tablespoon of vanilla. This is pure vanilla extract. You want the good stuff. Good in, good out. Remember that. And then I'm gonna lightly beat it. Make sure you break down those egg yolks. I'm gonna put this aside. All right, so what I'm going to start doing now, this we're going to make cream to go with this bread pudding, and it's going to be Amarula cream to go on the bread pudding. Now this is what I use. It's table cream, and you can find this in the grocery store in the international aisle where there's a Hispanic food, or in the baking aisle where there's condensed milk, evaporated milk, and all that. That's where you can find this. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put this on the side because we'll use that for the dressing. In case you're wondering what Amarula is or what it looks like, this is it. Now I have on my blog another recipe that I developed for Amarula bread pudding, chocolate bread pudding. It's delicious. Now this stuff is gold, guys. It's liquid gold. Very good. And you can drink with it. You can also cook with it. So I am going to take a 1/2 cup of that, and I'm going to put it in here. It looks like masala chai. That's what it reminds me of. Now don't worry, this is not a boozy recipe. This is the alcohol in this is gonna cook down. So what you'll have is the flavor of the actual Amarula seed. Okay? And then I'm gonna take 2 cups. So what you see I'm doing, I'm putting the liquids together. So I'm gonna take 2 cups of heavy cream. That's the first one. That's the second one. It's a heavy whipping cream. Perfect. And then I'm going to take a cup of coconut milk. Now I use a heavy coconut milk, okay? Now you want to make sure you stir when you open the can because sometimes it gets curdled up top. Give it that nice coconut flavor. And then I'm going to use evaporated milk. This is not sweetened condensed milk. This is evaporated milk. That's it right there. That's my favorite brand. And then I'm going to use a cup. And then we're going to stir this together, and then I'm going to add the eggs into this. Just whipping. I'm using a whisk. Move this so you can see what I'm doing. Now in the meantime, the steam from the little water that's left in there is cooking that spinach. Okay, so to this I'm going to add the eggs and vanilla mixture. Still one egg yolk in there that I need to break, and there you go. Good. Just going to pour it and stir. Whisk. It's going to get thick on you because of the egg yolks. There you go. Now imagine some dark rum would also go very well with this in place of the Amarula. Man, it smells good, and we haven't even cooked anything yet. It smells incredible. Okay, so now we have our sugar mix. Let me grab something. Mix it up here together. Sugar cardamom mix. I know it looks like a lot of sugar, and just to let you know, I don't eat like this every day. So if you see me making rich foods, just know this is not how I eat every day. Everything, it's good to eat, you know, to indulge yourself every once in a while, but everything in moderation. And I'm just gonna mix it up there. Now once this is, oh, it smells so good. Once this is all mixed up, we're gonna pour it over the bread in that bowl and the fruit mixture. Ooh, cloud of dust from the sugar. If you like, you could use your blender to do this or a hand mixer. But I like to do it this way. I know I'm strange like that. I have nothing against appliances, trust me. It's just you get used to doing something a certain way and you get stuck to it. Sometimes I have to remind myself, hey, you got a blender there, you got a hand mixer. But it's okay for now, we'll use this. Now everything looks nice and blended. So, let me smell that. Oh, that's dangerous. It's gonna be so good. Okay, so I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mix that to make sure the fruit is spread everywhere. Mix that together. So every bite you get some fruit and some bread in there. And remember, you have to grease your baking dish. So what will happen after I pour all this custard up over this, I am going to cover it, put it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to an hour, just so that the bread can soak all this custard. And then we're going to throw it in the oven at 325 degrees for an hour, covered in aluminum foil for 45 minutes out of that hour. So for 45 minutes, it's going to be covered, baking in the oven, center aisle. And when I say 325 degrees, I mean 325 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to cover it with aluminum foil, bake it for 45 minutes, covered with aluminum foil, and then we're going to take the aluminum foil off. For the last 15 minutes, we're going to let the bread on top get nice and brown and crunchy, just adding to that exquisite flavor. So you're going to pour, make sure you get every corner. And the reason why I use this mixing bowl / measuring cup with a sprout is because it's easier to pour, less messy this way. You can do it straight out of a mixing bowl. Just be careful, it does get messy. Ooh, ooh, flavor, flavor, flavor. I'm going to stop for a second and I'm going to use, let's put this here so it doesn't drip on my board. Okay, I'm going to use a spatula, kind of press down. Make sure, sometimes it's those pieces of bread that just will not stick down or absorb, so you got to make sure everything gets every bit of that custard. If you put too much, it's going to be mushy. So I think I'll add a little bit more, just a little bit more, and then stop. I think that'll do it. A little bit left, but it's not terribly much, enough to complain about. So, and when I take it out the fridge and I see that it's absorbed too much of the custard and it's looking kind of dry, or there's some piece of bread still sticking out that look dry, I'm going to add the rest of this. But for now, I'm just going to cover it up with aluminum foil, and then I'll put the rest of this in the fridge too. I'll cover it up in cling foil, put it in the fridge, because remember it has eggs. You don't want it to stay out at room temperature. You don't want to get sick. So we're going to cover this, and then I'll stick it in the refrigerator, and when we come back, we'll start on the rest of the food. So we'll be right back with you. Welcome back. Right before the break, we were just putting our tropical bread pudding in the refrigerator, and we're going to pull it out later when it's been, I'll leave it in there for at least 45 minutes, and then we're going to throw it in the oven. And then you left me putting the spinach in the potatoes. The corn and the peas were already cooked. They were nice and tender, and the potatoes were good already, but in the last 10 minutes, I put this chopped spinach in there and let it cook down. It takes really up to very little time for the spinach to cook. So this is what we have. I've combined everything in one bowl. I went ahead and drained the water. I left very little water in there. So we have the potatoes, the spinach, the green peas, and the sweet corn. Now this is a twist to, if you're looking for a meal that's a sweet, like a potato meal, but something that's different from your regular mashed potatoes. This is a substitute, and it's very filling, and the whole dish is very easy to do. And together, this and the meat that I'm cooking there takes 30 minutes total to cook, so it's really fast. So I went ahead and tasted the potatoes for salt, and I found that it does not have enough salt. So I'm just going to sprinkle the rest of it in here. It's going to mix. It's in there, but not enough. So it's according to your taste. If you like some more, add some more, and I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper, and I'm going to add, this is butter, just unsalted butter. So I use a masher, see that, to mash everything together. And just make sure you mash it up good. And then what I'm going to do when I finish mashing it, I'm going to let it sit out for a little bit, and that water is going to get all absorbed in there. If it's a little water, if it looks a little watery for you, don't worry, just let it sit out at room temperature for a little bit, and that water is going to get mashed up. Pretty easy, and I like to leave a little chunks in there. Let me use this to kind of pull it back in. This is tasty. Now, the meat I'm going to be cooking, the stew, is going to be spicy, so this will give it a nice balance. So the stew is spicy, the potatoes are nice but not spicy. That's a great balance. The flavors there. Smells great, y'all. Some of that off of there. And on the stove I have my meat. What I've done is the meat that I'd already boiled and made some broth out of, I went ahead and put it back on the stove. I drained the broth out, put it in a separate bowl. We're going to use that for the sauce. And then I have it on the stove at medium high, and I put one medium onion, finely diced. Let me check on that, see how it's going. And what I'm trying to do is smells good. I'm trying to let the meat take on the flavor of the onions, and also till the onions are transparent. And we're at that stage, so I'm going to start adding the other things. Now, you could use tomatoes to make this. You can use 3 medium-sized tomatoes, cut them into little cubes and throw them in at this point, or you can use about 6 tablespoons of crushed tomatoes for this. But today I prefer mine, because that's how we're raised to make it with tomatoes, but I prefer mine without the tomatoes, okay? So I went ahead and diced half of a green pepper, half a red pepper. I'm just going to add that in there. and I'm going to reduce the heat to a little bit under medium and let those cook together. And then I'm going to add the ginger garlic paste in there. So if you don't have ginger garlic paste where you live, just take an inch of peeled fresh ginger root and then cut it up really fine, and then use a mortar and pestle to make a paste out of it. And then you can also use diced, diced garlic, and then use a mortar and pestle to mash it up or to make a paste out of it. When I say ginger garlic paste, I mean equal parts ginger, equal parts garlic. Or you can buy it all mixed together at your local Indian grocery store, or you can find them at the grocery store where they have the packaged herbs. They have ginger paste and they have garlic paste, so you can mix each equal parts, make ginger garlic paste. Okay, so I'm just going to let that cook down for a little bit before I start adding the spices into that. So let me go back here to my Irio. I need to find a place to put this. I'll set it up here. Okay, that looks nice and good. I'm not going to cover it because if I cover it, the steam that's coming out of it is going to go back in there and make it mushy. So I'm going to leave it like this. Just let it cool down, let the water get absorbed into the potatoes, and we're going to go back here and finish on our beef stew. Alright, so I can see the onions are looking transparent in there. See that? Look on the spoon. Nice and transparent. I'm going to start adding the stuff. Now I'm going to start with curry powder. Remember, all the measurements are going to be on my blog. Again, that's www.stellasmeza.blogspot.com. I've added that up to medium. This is Dana Jira. That's a mixture of coriander and cumin. The first one I put was curry powder. This one, today I'm not going to use turmeric for this. So. And I like to add the cinnamon to my savory dishes. It brings out a very nice flavor to whatever it is you're cooking. So I use it both for savory dishes and for sweet dishes as well. I'm going to turn that heat up a little. I wish y'all could smell this. It smells so good. Smells good. Okay. And I have here some red chili powder. Mild red chili powder. I like to feel some heat in my food, but I do not like to cough and fight and cry when I'm eating my food. So I'm just going to start with that. And then I'll taste it later, see what it tastes like. If I want a little bit of kick, I'll add the rest of that in there. And I'll put the measurements again in my blog. Make sure to visit. Now there's some recipes on there that I haven't done videos for. So if you check it out, you'll find stuff that you might like to cook and try sometime. So make sure to visit. Alright. Alright. And then I'm going to add a little bit of this in there. This is the stock that when I boil the meat, that's a liquid that came out of it. And I saved it. I normally save it to make, if I'm making beef with stew in there, I normally save it so I can put it back in there. So no flavors lost. Everything, all the nutrients, everything is right in there. See that? Now if you want to make your sauce thicker, when it's boiling, it's nice and bubbling and you've added all your spices and everything, take a tablespoon of cornstarch. And then in Kenya they call it corn flour. So take a tablespoon of that and some cold water. Don't put hot water. Put 2 tablespoons of cold water. Make a paste out of it. And then while everything is nice and bubbling, throw it in there, stir it up, and then you have a nice thick stew. Okay? Oh, it smells fantastic. Alright, let me taste and see what the salty situation is. You definitely need salt. There's my salt. That's around a teaspoon of salt. I use kosher salt to cook. see that? Especially my East African people, you don't have to have tomatoes to make the stew nice and thick. I have nothing against tomatoes, but sometimes I want something different, and that's what I did here. Right. And I'm going to add my coriander or cilantro. In Kenya we call it coriander. I'm going to add that in there. That's half a bunch, finely chopped up. I'm going to turn that heat down and stir it in. Ooh, look at that. Look at all the colors. The green and the red and the brown. Beautiful. So not only does it look good, it tastes good. Alright, now the very last thing I'm going to add is a little bit of garam masala, like a pinch. A little bit. And you can find that at your grocery store or your local Indian grocery store or online. I'm going to add the rest of this on there. And then once I put this in, I'm going to reduce the heat. And then if I see that it's not the thickness that I want, I'm going to use that cornstarch trick that I showed you. Look at that. This will go beautifully on that Irio. Okay. So I'm going to cover it and let it simmer on medium low heat for, remember the meat is I already boiled it, so it's not like it's raw. So I don't need a lot of time. I'm going to let it stew for like 20-25 minutes, simmer on medium low heat, okay? So when you come back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw that bread pudding. It's been almost 45 minutes. I'm going to throw that bread pudding in the oven, 325 degrees for 45 minutes, covered in foil, and then take that foil off for another 15 minutes uncovered. And then when we come back, we have the Irio finish, we have the beef stew finish, and we're going to have our tropical bread pudding finish, and we're going to put it all together for you to see. Now, you have your carbohydrates, and you have your vitamins in there, you have your protein and more vitamins in there. Balanced meal. So we'll be right back when everything's plated for you to see. Welcome back. Right before the break, I had put the bread pudding, tropical bread pudding, in the oven, and it's ready. Everything's ready. I went ahead and plated it, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But I wanted to come over here and show you how I make my cream sauce, my Amarula cream sauce for the bread pudding. Now again, I use table cream, and then to that I add 2 tablespoons granulated sugar. Okay. And then I add a teaspoonful of vanilla extract, pure vanilla extract. Get the good stuff. And then I use, this again, I use 2 tablespoons of Amarula liqueur. Now, don't worry, this is going to cook off. The alcohol in this is going to cook off because it's heating. It's heated. So that's the first one. Looks like masala chai. That's the second one. I'm just going to cover that up. Now, I've made good use of that bottle. I barely drink, but I cooked a lot of good stuff with that. I made up like recipes, and it's been delicious. So we've been enjoying that quite a bit. All right, so I have this on medium-high. I'm just going to keep stirring it. And this doesn't take long at all. I say 5 to 8 minutes. Once it starts bubbling, you turn the heat off. And then you use it on your bread pudding. And it smells so good. Now over here on the other counter, I have my bread pudding cooling down. Now, once you get it out the oven, you let it sit on the counter. Take the, of course, the last 15 minutes of cooking it, the foil has been taken out. So you let it cool down for around 10 minutes, or it's gonna burn your mouth. It's hot. Resist the temptation to eat it immediately. That's really hard to do because it tastes good. It tastes really good. I'm gonna turn that heat up a little. I want to see it bubbling, and then it'll be good to go. Now I'm going to give you a sneak peek at what my beef stew looks like. If you come over here, look at that. Ooh, and it smells so good. It smells really good. I'm going to show you when it's served up over the Irio. Now what I do, how it's done is you serve up the Irio, you make kind of a little hill out of it on the plate, and then you dent that hill, the center of the hill, or the Irio with a spoon, the back of a spoon or a ladle, and then you pour the stew right in between. right in the center of it. So it looks like a bowl. And the presentation is beautiful and the flavors are excellent. Very cheap meal, very filling and very quick. Now everything I did besides the bread pudding, that would have taken 30 minutes from preparation and cooking, everything, 30 minutes total. So very simple, something you can whip up during the week after work. Okay, doesn't take a lot of preparation time. And this is almost done. I'm going to take a little taste, see what we're working with. So good. So good. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little bit of sugar, like half a teaspoon or a teaspoon. So just hang on there for a second. Let me grab my sugar in here. Use a clean one here. It's a quarter, so I'm going to do 2 of these. That's a half a teaspoon right there. Alright, let's stir it up. Then I'm going to taste it again. That's what I wanted, to bubble. Now there, the alcohol's cooking out of the cream. So those of you who, for whatever reasons, if it's religious or whatever, maybe you consider that being that there's no alcohol in there now. Now try it again, see if it's perfect. So it's 2 1/4 teaspoonfuls of 2 tablespoons and a quarter teaspoon of sugar. You can hear my boys in the background playing really hard, so which means they're gonna work up an appetite for us to enjoy this meal. All right, now I'm gonna get this off the heat. I'm gonna put it into my little thingamajig here. I'm just gonna pour it in. Look at that. Ah, that's nice. And I have everything served up here. I'll set this over. I have everything waiting over here. I'm going to hold that plate up so you see the goodness I'm working with here. That's an Irio, and that's a beef stew. Okay. Now, remember I told you to let the Irio cool down at room temperature, uncovered for a little bit, just so that the steam can run out and any excess water can be absorbed into the potatoes. Now, when it comes time to heat it up, you can throw it in the oven. I put mine in there at 250 degrees for 10-15 minutes, covered in foil, so it can warm up again. Or you can nuke it in the microwave, okay? So I'm gonna, without further ado, I'm gonna dig in, guys, okay? Ooh, can't wait. I'm gonna blow just in case it's hot. Oh my. The texture of the potatoes is still like potato bits in there. I didn't mash it all the way, so you definitely heat those. And the sweet corn in there and the peas, that's fantastic. An excellent addition on here. Now, the beef is spicy, and what I like about this meal is its balance. The beef is spicy, the Irio is not spicy, so that balances out. Your mouth is not on fire, and it's so good. I wanted comfort, guys, and I got it. That right there is comfort food, okay? So I'm going to move over here. And I have my bread pudding. It smells really, really good. You can see the flecks of fruit in there, the tropical fruit in there. And it smells, you can smell the coconut in there. I'm just going to drizzle this over. Ooh, look at that. Sin in a bowl. And I'm going to take my spoon and take a taste. Oh, no, it's really hot. So you see that? I don't want to burn myself, so I'm going to blow on it. Just straight out the oven. Actually, it's sat for 10 minutes, but it's still hot. That's what I was telling you. Don't eat it right out the oven. It's going to burn you. Oh. That is tasty. Ooh, one more. I'm sorry, I'm enjoying myself a little bit too much, but it is good, y'all. It really is. Look, look. Look at that. See, ah. Yes, yes, yes. That, I can imagine eating that on a cold day. Anytime you're feeling like down and you want some like this, it's like a hug. It's like a hug coming from inside. Well, I hope you get to try these dishes, okay? And I enjoyed myself. Today we went to Kenya and enjoyed one of my own creations. So I wonder where we're gonna go next time. I hope you come and join me again. Try my recipes. Again, the measurements, the ingredients, all on my blog, www.stellasmeza.blogspot.com. So make sure to visit, and I'll be back every week to take you an exotic place, a different place, and make sure you eat and think outside the box. Today's dishes, safi sana. That's Swahili for on point. So join me again next time as I take your taste buds on another culinary safari. Thank you for joining me, and karibu.